Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C race review, which is Group 4 at Willow Springs International. And in this video we are going to make another new friend. There's also going to be some good racing and some interesting overtakes as well. So here is the race settings for this one. If you've seen the strategy guide you'll know this already. Fuel at ×2, tyre wear at ×7, racing medium and racing hard tyres available, 15 laps to negotiate, and that hard tyre is mandatory. So from the strategy guide there was several ways to do this race. The one stop and the two stop were fairly close. The non stop was an option but a little bit slower. As the sort of weeks went on in the races I've been competing in, I have tried both the one stop and the two stop. I did predict that the one stop would be the way to go, and that does seem to be what most people are going for. Quite a sort of variety of cars on the grid. We're in the Porsche Cayman. GT4 car seems to be quite a good option for this race, and in particular that grid start is much better at getting off the line than the other favoured car, which is the Audi TT. And as the race sort of progresses, the Audi TT is very strong at the start while the tyres are still good, and as the race progresses the tyres start to wear out and the sort of Cayman comes into its own a little bit more. So a very interesting race. I did actually predict in the strategy guide, and I'm going to admit I've had quite a lot of fun so far with it. So this race is now underway. Now we didn't catch the sheer capture footage for this one, so we've just had to adopt it to the replay footage. Got a good start off the line, had a little tap with P3, the green Audi TT, around one of the corners, picked up a silly 1 second penalty. My fault, did tap the back of him. Bit annoying, but it's one of these penalties that's been commonplace for a wee while now, so you have to be careful of them and sort of take that into consideration. We had a little bit of a altercation with what's now P4 into one of the preceding corners, but I think we did have enough of our car in front. However, no harm, no foul. We serve our penalty, we fall down to 6th place, and this introduces the car in front of us, which is going to be my new friend. So we're in P6 now. What's his name? Super VT 2000. He's in a purple Audi TT. He's sitting in P5. As we come into turn 1 at the start of lap number 2, I'm going to get my first experience of somewhat erratic driving from this driver. He seems to brake an awful lot going into turn 1. You can see just how much we closed up on him. Actually had to slam the brakes on to avoid another contact. Coming through turn number 2 now, this corner is where the Audi TT just has ridiculous grip. It just seems to be able to gain at least 2 to 3, even 4 tenths of a second over the Cayman through that corner, particularly when the tyres are still in good shape. But I've had experiences where I've been on medium tyres and a Audi TT behind me has been in hard tyres and is able to hang with me around that corner. So I'm not entirely sure why it's so strong around there. Somebody will explain that a little bit better than me. But it's corners like that, and I think the last corner as well is where the Audi TT is just very, very strong at this track. So we're coming onto the back straight here. We've got a good run on Super VT 2000 down towards the last corner. And we're going to take a little bit of a look up the inside, I think. We take a little bit of a look. Super VT sees that, chops our nose off to sort of block us, but in the process completely misses his braking point and his line. Has to slam the brakes on not to go flying off the track, and that's going to give us a run down the main straight. But Super VT 2000 is having none of that whatsoever. Sideswipes us into the gravel. Round we go. I have to admit, probably one of the best takeouts I've ever been the victim of in the game, so congratulations to Super VT 2000 for that. Not exactly a great re-entry to the track on my part. Unfortunately, this this Alfa Romeo 4C is going to clip us on the outside of turn 1 to pick up a 1 second penalty. To be fair, I think there was more enough track for the Alfa to avoid us there, but unfortunate all the same. So let's take a look at that incident from Super VT 2000's point of view. We're going to see my car just poke its nose into the inside there. Audi TT closes the door, as I said, gets a bad line out the last corner, has to slam the brakes on, totally compromises their speed. I'm going to slow the footage down here. You can see that Audi starts to move to the right, realises that I'm going to the left. You can see the red dot moving all the way to the left. Nearly full lock into the side of us, and off we go. Really no any kind of effect to the Audi TT, so just an absolute blatant takeout on Super VT 2000's part. And in all fairness, the game does give him a 2-second penalty, so the penalty system works to an extent there. I lost over 10 seconds, so maybe not quite fair and balanced in terms of punishment to the crime, but I can't really blame the game for that one. It was going to give him a 12-second penalty to try and make up for it. I don't know. Anyway, a little bit later on in this race, we kind of recovered. We started made our pit stop and we catch back up to Super VT 2000 again. Now, I was very nervous about overtaking him here, so you can see I'm actually on the brakes. I've decided I'm just going to stay here and then dive him into turn 1. And we're going to get brake checked by Super VT 2000. You can see the brake lights come on his car. He tries to do it again, but we've moved to the side. It goes off the track. I thought he was going off the track to try and give us another penalty. Fortunately, I don't think he went all 4 wheels off, or we may well have got that penalty. But we're by him now, and that was to be the last we'll see of the Super VT 2000 in this race. So, thanks, new friend. It was a pleasure to race with you. But if I don't ever see you again, I won't complain. Let's put it that way. Anyway, we recovered to 6th place. Too much damage done with the incident with Super VT. We tried to do a 2-stopper as well, which didn't work. But 6th place in the end, not too bad overall. So moving on to race number 2 of 3 races we're going to look at in this video. And this one's going to be a bit more of a sort of feature, if you like. This one's going to be around about 10 minutes in length of commentary and footage. We did this one before we'd set a qualifying time, so we are doing from the back of the grid to see how high we can get. We're in the Jaguar F-Type Group 4 with the Lucozade livery. Red lights are about to go out. Traction control on 1, we get off the line and we get a very, very good start, and we make up quite a lot of positions even before we get to turn 1. Quite a lot of people still in the FF cars, struggling to get them off the line, and that is definitely to our benefit. So into turn 1 we come and look for the inside. Remember in the strategy guide I did say you want to be looking for the inside into turn 1 to avoid any carnage. And look at the driver that's in front of us. This is Super VT 2000, who's just featured in the last race. As I said, this race was done before that one, so I wasn't quite aware of his shenanigans. But looking back at some of this footage, he's definitely not the cleanest driver in the world. Definitely likes a little bit of a contact, and is definitely not keen to be overtaken, that is for sure. So coming into the sort of tight twisty section, he's just going to bump that driver in front of him off the track, well not quite off the track, but wide, and pick up a justified 1-second penalty. So clap penalty system on that one, and that puts us up into P11 from P19 at the start. We're on the racing hard tyres. We're going to do the one-stop strategy, and we're in pretty good shape in the early stages of this race. So unlike the last race, our soon-to-be new friend actually leaves space going into the last corner here. Allows us to make the overtake and move up into P10. If you look up at the sort of replay camera in the top right hand corner, you'll see Super VT go flying off the track in quite spectacular fashion. So LOL to that, I say. A little bit of a gap to the cars in front of us, so we still hit the warp speed function, and we shall see if we can close up with them by the end of the lap. And that's exactly what we've done. Coming into turn number, well, in fact we'll just call it the last corner. At the end of lap number 2 we have got a little squad of cars in front of us, and we're in, as I said, pretty good shape for this one, given that we started on the hard tyres. And the last corner is going to claim some more victims, and that's going to allow us to move up a little bit further. I think 2 cars went off. P8 there runs wide and gives us the momentum down the main straight, and we're up into P7 at the start of lap number 3. Okay, while there's a slight lull in the action, I would just like to put out there how much I appreciate all the support I get on the channel in terms of the comments on the videos. And we are now getting very close to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you enjoy the videos but haven't already hit that subscribe button, then please do so. Help me get to that 1k. I've got some plans for the channel once we get there in terms of doing some different things, maybe doing some live streaming. If we can get to that 1k mark, I can certainly maybe see myself taking it a little bit more seriously and putting a little bit more effort into the production values, and sort of maybe take the channel to the next level. So please do hit that subscribe button, help me get to that 1k. But for all you guys out there who've already done so, then I do very much appreciate it. And again, keep leaving me comments. I'm more than happy to engage in any kind of Gran Turismo sport talk that you want to get into. Anyway, back to the action here. We have caught up with the Ferrari of P6. We're going to get a run down towards the last corner. Japanese driver gives us the room on the inside. Have to say, in terms of the vast majority of the driving that I've done in the Oceania, some hard racing, but generally pretty fair, I have to say. Super VT 2000s excluded. Anyway, we get the overtake made into the last corner, up into P6. This strategy is looking pretty good. We're on the hard tyres, we're going to be moving on to the quicker tyre in due course, and we're looking in pretty good shape to get a decent result here. So moving on to lap number 5, we've caught up with P5 here, the Honda NSX. Not quite close enough to make a move into the last corner, so we're just going to try and line the move up to try and get it done down the main straight. Try and get a really good exit. You can see the NSX has went in a little bit deep there. That's going to give us a much higher speed off the corner. In the slipstream, Jaguar's very good in a straight line anyway. Japanese driver knows it's coming. Cody, I believe the name was there. Nice outbraking manoeuvre down into turn number 1. Japanese driver didn't really fight it at all. And that's us up into P number 5. And around about a lap later, coming into turn number 1, the Audi TT with a very nice Sprite livery is going to get it ever so slightly wrong. Put a wheel on the dirt. That's going to make them run wide into turn number 2, and we're going to poke our nose in and take that position. Here we go. Just better grip. I'm going to guess that the Audi TT's tyres have maybe gone a little bit come this stage of the race. So up into P number 4, and it's a pretty big gap to the cars in front. So we'll hit that fast forward button, and as you can see, P3 is in the pits and he's 5.8 seconds in front of us. Now if you've seen the strategy guide, that was exactly the distance I said you would lose in a pit stop, and it's pretty much spot on. As the Japanese driver comes out of the pits, we are side by side into turn 1, we leave them the room and we actually move it in ahead, and that's going to be a pretty important overtake as this race progresses. Now I did think for 1 second I was going to be able to hold this Audi TT behind me for too long, but I did see they'd came out on the medium tyres and had went on the medium tyres, so I now know they're on a 2-stop, so any time that I can cost them over the course of this lap is going to be beneficial to me. So fairly hard for any driver to make an overtake through the sort of twisty middle section of Willow Springs, even with a sort of massive tyre advantage. As long as you keep the car on the line, you should be okay. But coming down this back straight, you can see in the top right hand corner the Audi TT's got a better line and momentum. You can see him closing up on us. We're not going to make it difficult for him into this last corner. We're intending pitting here anyway, so no point fighting it, risking a collision and going flying off into the sand. We're going to have to try and beat this driver via strategy. So we give them the room. You can just see how much more grip they've got as they go through the corner, and we're going to peel off to the left hand side here and make our pit stop and take on those medium tyres. So out we come. Unfortunately, we come out into a little bit of traffic. We've got 4 cars in front of us there. Now as long as we can kind of keep P3 within the range of a pit stop, we should be able to move into that podium position, but it's all going to depend on how much time we lose dispatching these cars. Get by the first one with a rather cheeky move into the sort of kink on the back straight. A little bit of a cheeky move, but I think the room was there. A lap later we move up into P5 with a fairly similar move, but a lot more cleaner. Just better momentum down the back straight. And it's not going to take us too long to dispatch P4 here and move up into that position. Honda NSX, I think we passed earlier in the race. I think they're fairly worn tyres at this point. We're going to get a much better run out the last corner. They struggle to make the apex, and it's not even going to take the draft. We're just going to be overtake them before the start finish line in a fairly simple move. To move up into P4. And I can't see what that gap is there to P3. I think it says 5.7 seconds. So we are within the range of a pit stop at this point, and as long as we can kind of bring that gap down a little bit, we should be in good position to move ahead of that car when they make their pit stop and move on to the hard tyre. So jumping forward here to lap 13, you can see we've got the gap down to 4.1 seconds, 4 seconds there. As we're at the last corner, P3, the Japanese driver, is in the pits to take on their hard tyres, the mandatory tyre for this one. We're going to see them just on the left hand side there as we flash by the pit exit, and that's us up into P3. But that's as far as we're going to go in this one. Simonised, who is a streamer from New Zealand, too far ahead of us to make any kind of impact in that. I think that's nearly 9 seconds. But a podium from P19 on the grid is not too bad at all, not too shabby. I think there was some good racing in there. I have to say the sort of standard of cleanliness of the driving in these Oceania races I've been doing has generally been very good, very respectful, and I'm quite enjoying racing down here, I have to say. So moving on to race number 3. We have set a qualifying lap for this one. We are in the Cayman GT Club Sport as we were in the first race. I think we're starting in P number 4. Yes, we are. Red light start to come on. Make sure we've got that traction control on, and we should be able to make up some positions here at the start. So the car directly in front of us is also in the Porsche Cayman and immediately moves from P2 into P1, and we are going to get a run on P2 into turn 1 as well. Keep it nice and tight, and we've easily moved up into P2. Unfortunately, we're going to make a little bit of a mistake here into turn number 2. Just leave too much of a gap on the inside. As I said, the Audi TT is so strong around this corner. It looks a little bit more rude than what it was when I watched the replay. I was a little bit annoyed with it, but on watching the replay, not justified to be annoyed. However, I was more annoyed with the move that's about to be made on me now, as P4 basically pushes me out of the way. You can see it in the sort of top right hand side of the screen there. So no room there whatsoever, just forces their way through. Very rude manoeuvre indeed, and that's just after me saying how clean the racing has been as well. But of course, it doesn't really matter how clean the racing is in general. There's always going to be a few drivers out there who are going to make a few naughty moves. And if people make naughty moves on me, then I'm quite happy to make a naughty move on another driver as well. So the driver there, Putera, I kind of felt like he made a double move there into turn 1. He kind of went defensive halfway down the straight, and then as I kept going even more to the inside, they actually made a double move. So coming into turn number 2 here, we are being rude ourselves. We're sort of barging our way through a little bit, I think it would be fair to say. But no real harm done to that driver. They'd already kind of punted me out of the way and then made a bit of a, in my opinion, a suspect move into turn number 1 the next lap. So as I said, if somebody's going to be rude to me, I'm quite happy to be rude back to them. I would never punt another driver off, even if they punt me off, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, I can get my elbows out just as good as anybody. But we're up into P number 3 there, and we're going to have a bit of a race-long battle with the two drivers in front of us. So we've actually jumped all the way forward here to lap number 7. We were about 2.5 seconds behind them when we moved into P number 3. Closed that gap down to around about 1.3 by the time the two of them pitted. So they're both on the medium tyres there, and we're going to carry on because their tyres actually still feel pretty good. So I can see up there they're both now out on the hard tyres, so I know they're both one-stopping. And I was hopeful that my kind of medium tyres at that stage of the race would still be able to kind of match their hard tyres, and I actually have managed to increase the gap by a few tenths over the next couple of laps. So 5.1 seconds as we come into the pits and we're going to take on our fresh set of tyres. Now I know I'm going to lose 5.8 seconds here, so I'm going to be pretty close to them on pit exit, and that's going to put us in pretty good position for the second part of this race, because obviously our tyres are now also 2 laps fresher. So here you can see we managed to close that gap down there just by staying out for those extra laps on the medium tyres. As I said earlier on in the video, Porsche came in pretty good on its tyres compared to the Audi TT, and we're in pretty good shape to go for the victory in this one. Now it was to say pretty much like that for the entirety of the race. We've now jumped to lap 14. The pace was fairly slow, I was definitely quicker, but the driver in front wasn't making any clear mistakes. Had the slipstream from P number 1, which made it very difficult for me to make a clean overtake. But of course we're now getting to the very, very sticky end of the race, and things tend to get a little bit desperate when you get here. So we're going to stay on board until the end of the race now. Haven't followed line astern for the last 4 to 5 laps. This last lap is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of action. As I said, when it gets to this part of the race, drivers tend to make some slightly more desperate moves, or you can have the odd mistake creeping in as the pressure starts to build. So coming out the last corner here, the Porsche Cayman doesn't get the best exit, and the Audi TT is going to look for that move down the inside. Gets alongside into the braking zone and goes for it. The Cayman tries to fight it round the outside. I'm not sure if there's contact there, but the Cayman does go off wide. Falls down into 3rd place. Going to have pretty dirty tyres around this corner here, and that's going to promote the Teru up into P1 and myself up into P2. Half a lap to go. Can we get the move done and try and get the victory here? Thought about going for a move up the inside into this corner, but it's a very tricky overtake without making any contact. No room to pass here. We're looking left and right. Out the TT goes a little bit wide. We're going to get a run down the outside into this sort of left-hander here. Not a great place to be, in all honesty with you. Both of us don't get the best run. Audi's kind of blocked our line, lost our momentum, and that's going to bring the other Porsche Cayman into play. He's only 3 tenths behind us now. We've joined on board with that driver on the top right-hand corner. And into the last corner we come for the last time. And we're going to have a bit of a look. Get blocked off and make contact with Teru, and we get an SR down and they get a 3-second penalty. So while I generally tend to praise the penalty system as being not too bad, that was BS. I realised that I'd cost that driver the race. He was obviously going to lose the position to the Porsche Cayman, but I just slowed down. Make sure the gap's more than 3 seconds before I cross the line, and make sure that driver at least keeps a P2, because that was my fault, it was my contact, and it was just a very, very silly penalty to get. Anyway, P3, pretty interesting race. The overcut worked pretty well for us in terms of closing the gap down, but just no room to get a clean overtake in, and there's 2 drivers in front of us. Apologise to Teru in the post-race chat. They seemed pretty cool with it anyway. But that's going to wrap up the action for this one. As I said earlier on in the video, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing on the channel. Help me get to that 1000k subscribers. We are pretty close now. I think we're on 967 at time of speaking, so 33 to go. If you can help me get to there, I would really, really appreciate it. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one, which, let's be hopeful, might be a 1000k subscriber special. So I've got something lined up for that. Anyway, once again, thanks very much for watching, and goodbye now.